proud of the moves that he was making. And then he got into movies, and he got his criticism from us on the movies that he did. And he said, okay, I'll learn from this. And just watching him bloom has just been a delight. And the family has always stayed together. So we've always been very, very close ever since the first day I walked on there.
Throughout the years, you guys have kept in touch, even before this reunion,
Always.
which we'll get to. And yes.
Always.
What movie did you feel that you were most critical of, where you're like, Will, what did you think saying yes to this?
No, he saying yes wasn't the point. He just had to bring his full picture to it. And we think he kind of held back.
Which was?
On one movie.
As you zip your lips, do you have a favorite Will Smith movie? See, I'm keeping it nice and positive.
Oh, I love his movies. All of them. It was hard to watch Ali because I knew Ali. But I think he's grown magnificently through his characters. And he brings a lot of the energy that he had on set to his movies. It's fun to watch him work.
Did you know, like you said, like when you got this call, like, hey, do you want to come and audition for Aunt Viv? And you said, wait, there isn't Aunt Viv. And they said, just get yourself down here. Like, did you know when you auditioned the true, like, okay, this role is being recast? Or, I mean, I guess that, like in the beginning, like right when you just auditioned now?
No, I knew that, okay, wait a minute. That means that there's not going to, maybe she decided not to sign. I don't know. I only asked once after I got the job, and I was told, we don't talk about that. I said, okay. And I never knew until the reunion.
You didn't? Like, so when you were on set, there was no like buzz, like, like we don't, nothing.
Not a word. It was like I had been there the whole time.
It was just in terms of like, you know, like for any show, not even a role recast, like, you know, it's a 3-season family and then you come in, it was nothing, it just, you were there and they're like, this feels like I've been here forever.
Yeah. Yep. And that they embraced me, like they respected my work. They loved me as a person. I was totally comfortable and at home on that set.
Once you knew, like, okay, you got the job and the role was to play Aunt Viv, you know, okay, let's not ask questions, but just from listen, even now today, it's not so common to recast a role, but at that time, I could think of maybe one example, like on Dallas, when they recast like Barbara Bel Geddes and like, but like Donna Reed came in. I'm sure there were others, but it wasn't common then, especially like just as
I Dream of Jeannie, they had two different husbands. Yeah.
Yes, but it wasn't like, but so just like as an actress, were you like, was that like, did you have reservations? Did that present a second challenge? Like, how do I make this role my own? Nothing. You're shaking your head.
Not at all. I had a job. I was gleeful and ready to go to work. I really didn't put on the mantle of what had happened. I don't care what had happened. I'm here now. Let's get it on. And that's how I went. There was no social media at the time, so you didn't have all the nip. It was just, okay, I got a job. Let's go to work.
That's a good, you know, because I've talked to like others actors and actresses that have just went apart, you know, and they're like, I did think about all the back stuff that happened. And then others that are like, you know, that's just not my, who cares? Like I took a job. Yeah. Could you imagine if we did have social media back then when something like this happens?
Well, social media, because we have been around for so long, social media caught up with it. And there was a lot of back and forth of, oh, they wanted a light-skinned Black woman and they didn't want the dark skin. I'm going, what, whatever. I have no idea what went on, don't care, and you're allowed to like whoever you want. I don't care.
Right. And is that even really your job? I mean, this is more a question, like as an actress, you took a role, you're making it your own.
I could
That's like,
only make it my own. I don't have the talents that she has. Oh, she's amazing. Nothing to do with anything that I can do. So I have to bring all of me to that character, not try to be somebody else. I wasn't replacing somebody else. I was going to work.
yeah. Well, you're amazing too. I mean, you were on the show for 3 amazing years. What about, do you think it's easier or more difficult today? Like speaking of social media, like for actresses that want to kind of break into the business, is it easier because now we could just turn our phones on and say, look at me? Or is it harder because we have all this other outside nonsense and chatter, like you say?
Well, there are a lot more opportunities now because of all the different platforms that you can put entertainment on. So back then there were maybe 4 networks, and that was it. It was a little bit before, well, I guess cable had come in, but it wasn't like it is now. There were no streaming Netflixes and other places where you could find work. There was limited number, but now there's incredible opportunities for any number of people, whether they should be on there or not. That's for the audience to decide. But I think the opportunities are just as great now for any kind of person to be on some kind of creative platform. So,
I think so too. What are some highs just from your time on Fresh Prince? Like if there's one or two, like just one story or two that just sticks out of like, wow, or like a storyline or just something from set.
one of my favorite episodes, and I cry each time I see it, is when Will's father came back and then left again. And the performances, the story, working with Ben Vereen, it was all just a wonderful experience and still grabs my heart every time I see it.
That was a great episode. I mean, I think like in the reunion, like at one point too, like there was that one, I forgot what episode, like where like Will and like James Avery, and where James said to Will, like, this is acting. And
This
Will
is
was
that.
just like,
That was that episode. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what I thought. I
It
wasn't
was
sure.
magnificent.
Were you aware, and again, I have no negative connotation sending these questions, just more curiosity. Were you aware, like, either maybe not even when you were on the show, like after the show, all those years when like Janet Hubert was saying things about Will Smith negatively? I mean, it was in the press a lot. Like they had this bad blood for years and years and years. Even though we didn't have social media, we had like the Inquirer and People Magazine and all these other respectable. Like every time she gave an interview, she said nothing great.
Okay, I don't read that. It was not part of my life. I didn't concern myself with that. No. Mm-mm. And who do you blame? Who was telling the truth? What difference does it make? That's between the two of them. And they can talk about it and talk about it and talk about it, or they can do something about it. And they did something about it.
They did do something about it. Where were you when you first got this call for the reunion in 2020, like, and you heard that this was happening?
Well, we had a Zoom call with the cast in the spring of that year, and he was thinking about doing it and was asking us how we felt about it. I said, "Oh, that should be fun. I guess he made the deal, and we got an email and the contract with the email and said, "Would you like to do this?" And go, "Yeah." And I want to be all together. We have been in groups for years. I mean, 4 of us, 5 of us, 2 of us, 3 of us, but we haven't all been together in the same place at the same time. And that was the opportunity to do that. And it was tremendous.
Did you
It was,
learn? It was tremendous.
yeah, joy, 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 joy.
Did you, like you say, you guys are very close and you all kept in touch throughout the years, like So you know these people, you're a family. Did you learn anything new about Will? Yes, just from, right? And what
Yeah.
was it?
Uh, at the reunion, we learned how the show got started, how he went to the birthday party of Quincy Jones and how the deal got made. We hadn't heard that story before. And it was a lot of fun watching the audition tapes of some of the cast members and how we thought we had done at auditions and how it actually came off. And they said, and they hired me anyway, you know. So it was a fun chuckle. We had a lot of little things that had happened that the other people hadn't heard about. It was truly a family reunion.
What do you think? Like you said, you knew that this was a successful show, you wanted to be part of it, it was a job, but like you had no idea, because of course hindsight's 2020, that this was going to become such an iconic show. Are you shocked, and talk to me about like the cultural significance? Like, look, we had different strokes, we had shows where like, the poor black kid, quote unquote, is adopted by the rich white family. Like this really, dealt with a lot of different issues, and you didn't even think that this would lead to. And you're like, now we're in a different world, but you're like, wow, this opens a lot of storylines.
I didn't know back then. I knew that we were representing a segment of the Black population that had not been represented on in the media so far. And what I, in hindsight, look at is that each family member had a different view of whatever situation we were dealing with. And for all of us to react to the situation in 5 different ways, it's a basic fish out of water story, but to have all of these different opinions gave the audience something to grab onto, something to say, yeah, I would have thought that, or yeah, that's how I would have acted. I think it touched so many people, even cross-culturally, because of the differences that we all brought to the situation. It became a standard for family conversation. And Will Smith was a mega person. I mean, he was a big part of the success of that series. He was the energy, the force that made that a success. And it's because he gave 190% to everything he did with that show. And to watch him work was inspiring. I felt quite lazy working with him, but I had other things going on. But he was amazing to watch. And I think because he struck such a nerve and kept going and kept making movies and they always referred to his start. And that brought the Fresh Prince along with his entire career.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like people, a lot of times you hear stories, and like when someone was so committed to a show, you're like, these people work. Like it's real
Oh yeah, it's work.
grueling
It's
work.
work.
And Will was just a total workhorse.
Yes, and he had good people around him. We had a great writing staff that would allow us to modify some of the cultural nuances that they were writing. The one example I always bring up is they had little Ashley back talking to her father. I said, the little girl wouldn't have any teeth if she did that in our culture. So no, maybe you do that at your house. No, we don't play that. So they changed it because it was an opportunity for us to express cultural nuances that aren't usually dealt with. And we were really, really happy with that kind of situation.
And it sounds like you guys really had that type of input in the sense of like, wait, let's take a minute out and talk about this. This is not
Oh,
true
yeah.
to, wow.
Yeah.
That's not so common on any show, especially when the Fresh Prince was on. Wow. How bittersweet was the reunion without James Avery?
Well, we had been together without James Avery for a couple of years, and seeing it again was painful. It was very painful. I loved the man. I absolutely loved the man. And he and his wife and my husband and I used to travel together. We went to Joe's wedding, the English butler. We went to his wedding in London. We traveled all over the place together. We were all very good friends, and to lose him was very, very painful to me.
Yeah, it's like a void.
Oh, I'm still very good friends with his widow. Yeah.
Why, I mean, why do you think the show is so iconic? Like we've discussed that it is, like, what do you think it is that there's so many good shows from that time, right? On NBC, ABC, like all, but like, why do you think this show is just resonates with people so many years later? And, you know, someone like me, we are going to move on to other things, but like, this is what people want to talk about.
And this is our third generation that we are showing this show to. And I think has a lot to do with tradition, in that the people who saw the original show wanted their kids to see the show. And now those kids want their kids to see the show. So it has just had legs that have just gone on and on. It's quite amazing to me.
Have you ever heard from someone like in Hollywood, just like someone we know that is like of, you know, a third generation or a second generation that comes up to you and is just like, you're like, you're a Fresh Prince fan. Like I would never expect this person to have watched and they can quote things and you're like, wow, this is.
I get that a lot.